my parents were newly married, my dad worked at a factory, and my mom helped at her sister Sonia's canteen. After their wedding, they decided to build a small house for themselves. Since their house was still under construction, Sonia, my mom's older sister, invited them to stay at her two-story house in the meantime. Sonia, who was an old maid, lived alone in a house that was large, old, and filled with memories of the past. Sonia gave my parents the bedroom upstairs, while she opted to sleep on the couch in the living room downstairs. She said she didn't want to bother with going up and down the stairs. My parents were grateful for her hospitality, although they noticed a certain melancholy in her demeanor. Sonia's house was filled with old photographs and antiques, each telling a story of a time long gone. One particularly rainy night, around 2 a.m., my parents were woken by a loud knock at the door. My dad, thinking it might be a thief, grabbed a wooden stick and went downstairs to check. The house creaked with every step he took, the old wood groaning under his weight. He reached the door and cautiously opened it, but no one was there. The rain poured heavily, making it difficult to see beyond the porch. As he headed back upstairs, he saw the living room illuminated by a lamp and noticed Sonia sleeping soundly on the couch with a blanket over her. The sight reassured him, so he went back to bed. In the morning, another knock at the door woke them up. When my dad opened it, he was shocked to see Sonia standing at the doorstep. She explained that she couldn't come home the previous night due to the heavy rain and had spent the night at their cousin's house instead. My dad's hair stood on end. If Sonia wasn't home last night, who was the woman he saw sleeping on the couch? He tried to convince himself that it was just a blanket he saw and not Sonia, even though he distinctly remembered seeing a head with long black hair sticking out from the blanket. He kept these thoughts to himself, not wanting to alarm my mom. A week later, early in the morning, Sonia and my mom went to the market to get supplies for the canteen. My dad found himself alone in the house. The quiet was unsettling, the only sound being the distant patter of rain on the roof. As he descended the stairs and passed by a large mirror in the hallway, he saw a black figure walk past in the reflection. He stopped dead in his tracks, trying to process what he had just seen. Feeling a wave of nervousness, he hurried outside and waited until his wife and Sonia returned. When they arrived, he told my mom what he had seen. She was skeptical but could see the fear in his eyes. My dad insisted they couldn't stay in that house any longer. They told Sonia they would find another place to stay until their house was completed. Sonia understood and didn't press them. She revealed that she, too, had experienced strange occurrences in the house but had never mentioned them, thinking it was just her imagination. She spoke of hearing footsteps at night, doors creaking open on their own, and the feeling of being watched. She had always attributed these to the old house settling or her mind playing tricks on her. That night, as they packed their belongings, they heard soft whispers and distant footsteps echoing through the house. The air grew colder, and shadows seemed to dance along the walls. My parents hurried their packing, and as they were about to leave, they took one last look at the house. In the dim light of the living room, they saw the figure of a woman with long black hair standing by the couch, staring at them with hollow eyes. My dad took a step back, clutching my mom's hand tightly. The woman's gaze was piercing, and her presence felt overwhelmingly oppressive. The temperature in the room seemed to drop even further, and the whispers grew louder, filling their ears with unintelligible words. Without another word, my parents turned and rushed out of the house, slamming the door behind them. They drove away, not looking back, their hearts pounding in their chests. They found a small motel to stay in for the night, but sleep eluded them. The image of the woman haunted their thoughts, making it impossible to rest. The next day, They visited a local historian to inquire about the house's past. The historian, an elderly man with a wealth of knowledge about the area, told them a chilling story. The previous owner of the house was a woman named Isabella, who had lived there alone for many years. She was known to be reclusive and rarely seen by the neighbors. One stormy night, much like the one my parents experienced, Isabella was found dead in the living room, her body cold and lifeless. She had taken her own life, unable to bear the loneliness any longer. The house had been sold several times since then, but each new owner reported strange occurrences. No one stayed for long, and the house eventually fell into disrepair until Sonia bought it, unaware of its dark history. The historian believed that Isabella's spirit was trapped in the house, her unrestful soul seeking company in the only way she knew how. My parents were deeply disturbed by this revelation. They decided to perform a small cleansing ritual, hoping to bring peace to Isabella's spirit. They returned to the house with Sonia and a local spiritual healer. The healer performed the ritual, burning sage and reciting prayers to cleanse the space of negative energy. During the ritual, the air felt heavy, and a palpable tension filled the room. The healer's voice echoed through the house, blending with the whispers of the unseen. As the ritual reached its climax, a sudden gust of wind blew through the house, extinguishing the sage and leaving an eerie silence in its wake. For a moment, everything was still. Then, a soft sigh, almost like a breath of relief, seemed to emanate from the walls. The oppressive feeling lifted, and the house felt lighter, almost welcoming. The healer assured them that Isabella's spirit had found peace and would no longer haunt the house. Relieved, my parents and Sonia thanked the healer and left the house for the final time. They moved into a temporary apartment while their new home was being completed. The haunting experiences left a lasting impression on them, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. Years later, my parents would occasionally drive by Sonia's old house, now occupied by a new family. They never spoke of the haunting in detail, but the memory of that eerie figure and the whispers in the night remained etched in their minds, a chilling reminder of the unknown lurking in the shadows.